Since the dawn of man, philosophers have pondered over the existence of humanity. How do we get here? What's the purpose of our existence? Is there an afterlife? While some of the theories they came up with were hopeful, others were quite unsettling. I've compiled a list of the ones that will unsettle your mind the most and might cause you a bit of sleep deprivation. But if you still want to sleep at night after this, stay around till the last theory, which might be able to heal the insomnia I caused you. But before then, I'm gonna make you question your entire existence. Terror management theory states that everything we do is to distract ourselves from the fact that we will die one day. We have a biological self-preservation instinct, but at the same time we know that death is inevitable. Conflict between these two give us a constant, albeit subconscious sometimes, anxiety. Everything that humans have done beyond basic survival is to cope with this anxiety of mortality. Some try to make accomplishments that will let their name continue to live after their death, like creating a life-changing invention or becoming a remembered actor or athlete. Others turn to religious ideas like reincarnation or afterlife to give them a sense of hope for a type of immortality, but ultimately, it's all just a distraction from the inevitable: death. Our focus on death isn't done yet. Not only is death inevitable, but so is the death of our universe as a whole. Let me explain. If there is a closed system with unequally distributed energy, the energy will do work on the system until all energy is equally distributed. The system will have reached equilibrium and there will be no more energy to do work. This applies to our universe, which is slowly approaching a cold death. There will be no more energy for anything to happen at some point. The universe is not only approaching such an equilibrium, but it is also expanding faster and faster. Eventually all the matter in the universe will be spread so far apart that space will almost entirely be empty. The stars will disappear, and the entire universe will become cold, empty, and lifeless. You might have thought in the previous theory that even though I'll die one day, at least I'm contributing to a better future for humanity, but all human accomplishments will be lost. Even if we become a multiplanetary species, survive the collapse of the sun, and inhabit distant galaxies, eventually the entire universe will come to a cold death, and nothing that we ever did would really have mattered. For decades we've been looking for alien life without much luck, but they might have been among us all this time, just in a higher dimension. Let me explain. If you were a two-dimensional being, you would be completely unaware of what's going on in the third dimension, and unable to even comprehend the idea of a third dimension. If you were a two-dimensional being and there was a three-dimensional being looking down at you, there would be no way for you to detect him. The two-dimensional being would be powerless to the three-dimensional being. If you tried to hide in a two-dimensional house, a three-dimensional being could easily enter through the third dimension. The same could apply for us three-dimensional beings. There could be four-dimensional beings existing and observing us without our knowledge. They could enter and exit any structure as they pleased. Our attempts of fighting them would be hopeless. You might think that you're fully aware of the world around you, but the world around you might not even exist. The only thing sure to exist is your mind, your consciousness. Knowledge of anything outside of the mind is unsure to exist. What you experience is not objective reality, but simply a hallucination of reality created by your own mind's interpretation of your senses. But how do you know you can trust your senses? How do you know what your senses are telling you is what's actually there? How do you know that you're not imagining what you're seeing right now? How do you know you're not in a dream right now? How do you know your entire life has not just been one long dream? It's possible that everything you've ever experienced is just a creation of your own mind. All the people you've interacted with, all the things you've done, all the memories you have might just be your imagination. Maybe the entire world does not even exist, it's just your own consciousness with its own creations. All you know for sure is, I think, therefore I am. But if the world around you does exist, quantum physics have a couple of eerie ideas too. Imagine you're put in a room with a bomb. The bomb has a trigger mechanism measuring the orbital direction of an electron. If the electron rotates right, the bomb explodes and you'll instantly die. If it goes left, it will only make a ping sound and you'll remain alive. The orbital direction will be measured every 3 seconds. Because the orbital direction of the electron is completely random, each measurement, you'll have a 50-50 chance of survival. The trigger starts measuring the orbital and you anxiously wait to see if you'll die. Every 3 seconds a ping sound happens and you're still alive. After 300 seconds, you'll have a 800th octillionth of a percent chance of surviving due to chance alone. We can now say beyond reasonable doubt that you're immortal, but why would this happen? Quantum mechanics states that every time a decision is made by someone or something, the universe splits into 2 parallel universes. So every time the bomb was triggered, the universe split in 2. In the one universe you were dead and in the other you were still alive. But because you instantly died when the orbital was measured, you could not have known you died. This means your consciousness could only be transferred to the instance of the universe where you could know you're alive, and you remain alive. The theory that we are living in a simulation has become more and more popular lately. Even people like Elon Musk and Neil Tyson believe that we're living in a simulation. The argument is that the universe offers enough resources to create a computer capable of simulating a universe. It would not be able to simulate the entire thing at once, but if it simulated like a video game, it would be possible. By only simulating the parts of the universe that people are interacting with, you can save a lot of bandwidth. Kind of like Minecraft chunks only loading until they are within your sight. Or far-off buildings in GTA rendering with the minimum amount of detail to still look good. If we keep on improving technology every year, even by only a fraction of a percent, eventually we will be able to simulate perfectly realistic graphics, physics, and even virtual consciousness. If you look at the insane technological progress that has occurred over the past few decades, it might not even be that far into the future that we'll be able to create such a simulation. The civilization in the simulation will eventually be able to run a simulation in the simulation, and then eventually so will that simulation. These nested simulations could go on forever. Going with this nested simulation logic, we are either in base reality and it's just not yet possible to run a simulation, or we are in the deepest nested simulation, which can't create their own simulation yet. Neil Tyson speculates that it's around a 50-50 chance if we're in base reality or in a simulation. If we are living in a simulation, like in any video game, there will be occasional glitches. A common glitch in video games is when you no-clip through objects. It happens when a collision isn't properly detected and you end up moving through an object instead of colliding with it. In games, you sometimes no-clip through the floor and end up getting stuck under the world's map. You're still in the game, but stuck in an area you're not supposed to ever get to. There's a theory that this can happen in real life. People have reported they were able to no-clip out of this world. It's said that there are no-clipped objects in real life. It could be a door just looking a shade too dark, or a wall that just doesn't quite look right. And when you interact with these objects, you enter the back rooms. You'll find yourself in endless corridors lined with moist carpets, yellow wallpaper and fluorescent lights endlessly buzzing. Just looking at the footage gives us all a sense of nostalgic fear. You get the feeling that you faintly remember this place, and it fills you with dread. Biogenesis has been accepted as the mainstream scientific theory for the origin of life. The creation of the first cell was just a coincidence of matter arranging itself into an organism. From there, over billions of years of evolution, humans emerged. If life was just an accidental creation of natural processes, there's really no purpose to your life. Nothing you do ultimately matters. If we don't have a creator, there's no right or wrong and we have no moral obligations. Nothing that we do in this life ultimately matters and there's nothing beyond death. At some point we were accidentally created and at some point we'll go extinct. There's nothing more to life. Continuing with the idea of atheistic biogenesis, if we live in an entirely naturalistic world, free will and consciousness are just an illusion. Your decisions and actions are based off chemical reactions and the laws of physics. You have no real control over your actions. You think you choose what to do, but ultimately it was predetermined by the physical laws of the universe. Everybody's fate is predetermined, and you ultimately have no control over where you end up in life. Your initial circumstances and external stimuli is what shapes you to think and act the way you do. You're powerless. The ethologist John B. Colhoun came up with the term behavioral sink as a mental response in animals to overcrowding. He conducted an experiment where he put 8 mice in a mouse paradise. They had unlimited food, unlimited water, and comfortable housing. He then left them to populate. After 2 years, there were 2,200 mice, and the mice paradise had become a mouse apocalypse. The mice became violent, stopped caring for their young, stopped reproducing, and even resorted to cannibalism. The population started decreasing to extinction from that point on. Even when 4 of the survivors were put together to live in the original circumstances, their behavior was so altered they could not rebuild their population. Although this experiment was run on mice, many scientists extrapolate that similar behavior will come from humans when we start to overpopulate. You have to realize that the beliefs we have about life ultimately shapes our quality of life. There are tons of theories, ideas, religions, and philosophies out there. There are so many controversial and pessimistic outlooks on life that you could choose to accept, but you will make yourself miserable. Most of these types of concepts aren't things that can be proven to be true or false. So instead of debating about it, we should choose to believe what empowers us the most. You should choose to believe whatever gives life the most amount of meaning and fulfillment. Choose to believe that life was created with purpose and that this journey between life and death has some deeper meaning than just what you will accomplish in this world. Decide that you're going to find joy and purpose from this life, regardless of how dark or pessimistic things might get. Decide that you are special and that your life has meaning. And with that, I hope to restore your sleep. Goodbye.